The turkey was golden brown, sitting in my kitchen like some kind of trophy I'd earned through 3 hours of basting and temperature checks. Thanksgiving morning had started like every other year, me doing the cooking while Marta handled the important stuff, which apparently meant arranging flowers and making sure her sister Victoria knew exactly which wine to bring. I'm Jake Morrison, 48 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me sharp. Marta always introduced me as my husband who works in IT, like I was some kind of necessary appliance she'd rather not explain. The house buzzed with pre-dinner chaos. Our daughter Amelia had driven up from college with her boyfriend Liam, and they'd been whispering in corners all morning. Victoria had arrived early, as usual, carrying her superiority complex like designer luggage. My sister Linda was helping in the kitchen, though mostly she just got in my way. "Jake, the gravy needs more salt," Linda announced, not bothering to taste it first. "Thanks for the input," I muttered, stirring the pan with more force than necessary. Marta swept into the kitchen wearing her cream-colored dress, the one that cost more than my monthly car payment. She looked perfect, as always, every hair in place, makeup flawless, smile practiced. "How much longer?" she asked, checking her watch like she had somewhere more important to be. 20 minutes, maybe 30. She sighed dramatically. Victoria's getting impatient. You know how she gets. Yeah, I knew how Victoria gets. Entitled, demanding, and convinced the world owed her constant entertainment. She'd been that way since I'd known her, which was unfortunately 22 years too long. "Tell Victoria she can wait or eat somewhere else," I said. Marta's eyes flashed, but she kept her voice level. "Don't be difficult, Jake. It's Thanksgiving." That's when I heard it. Laughter from the living room. Not just any laughter, but Marta's laugh. The real one, not the polite version she used with me anymore. I glanced up, confused, because Marta was standing right here in the kitchen. "I thought you were... Were what?" She looked genuinely puzzled. The laughter came again, definitely Marta's voice, followed by a deeper chuckle I recognized as Liam's. My stomach twisted. Something was wrong with this picture. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I wiped my hands on the dish towel and walked toward the living room, my footsteps muffled by the carpet. The voices got clearer as I approached. "Can't keep doing this," Marta was saying, her voice low and intimate. "Why not? She's upstairs and Jake's busy with his precious turkey," Liam replied. I stopped breathing. That was definitely my wife's voice, but she was supposed to be in the kitchen with me. I pressed myself against the wall and peered around the corner. There they were, standing by the fireplace. Marta had changed into a different outfit, a black sweater I'd never seen before. Liam had his hand on her arm, thumb tracing small circles on her skin. They were standing close, too close, and the way she was looking at him made my chest tight. "This is insane," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. "Insane good or insane bad?" Liam grinned, that cocky smile that had always irritated me. Instead of answering, she reached up and touched his face. The gesture was tender, familiar, like she'd done it 100 times before. My hands clenched into fists. 22 years of marriage, and she was touching our daughter's boyfriend like he belonged to her. I could have confronted them right there, could have charged in and made a scene. Instead, I backed away quietly and returned to the kitchen. Linda was still there, oblivious, humming while she arranged dinner rolls in a basket. "Where's Marta?" she asked. "Around," I managed. My phone was on the counter. I picked it up and opened the camera app, then walked back toward the living room. They were still there, still touching, still whispering. I held the phone steady and recorded 30 seconds of footage before retreating again. The evidence was right there in my hands, but I felt strangely calm. Maybe it was shock, or maybe it was something else. The satisfaction of finally understanding why Marta had been so distant lately, so critical, so eager to find fault with everything I did. "Jake," Victoria's voice carried from the dining room. "When are we eating? Some of us have plans later." Of course she did. Victoria always had plans that were more important than family dinner. I put my phone away and checked the turkey one more time. Still perfect, still golden, just like my wife's reputation was about to be, perfectly ruined. 5 more minutes, I called back, but I wasn't talking about the turkey anymore. Dinner started normally enough. We gathered around the table like we had every year, passing dishes and making small talk about Amelia's classes and Linda's new job. Marta sat at the opposite end of the table, playing the perfect hostess, while Liam sat next to Amelia, his hand resting possessively on her shoulder. I watched them both, noting the way Marta avoided looking directly at him, how Liam's eyes kept drifting in her direction when he thought no one was watching. It was like seeing a magic trick once you knew how it worked. Obvious and pathetic. "This stuffing is incredible, Jake," Victoria said, and I could tell she was surprised. She never expected much from me. "Family recipe," I replied, cutting my turkey with deliberate precision. "Whose family?" Marta asked with a slight edge. "Your mother never cooked anything that didn't come from a box?" There it was, the casual cruelty that had become her specialty. A year ago, that comment would have stung. Tonight, it just made me smile. "You're right," I said. "I got it from a cooking show. Turns out you can learn a lot when you pay attention to the details." Something in my tone made her look at me sharply, but I was already reaching for my phone. "Actually, speaking of details, I wanted to share something with everyone." I stood up, phone in hand. "I was trying to take some candid family photos earlier, and I captured something really interesting." The table went quiet. Amelia looked curious, Linda looked confused, and Victoria looked annoyed at the interruption. Marta had gone very still. "Jake," she said carefully, "maybe we should—" "No, this is perfect timing." I swiped to the video and hit play, then set the phone in the center of the table where everyone could see. The audio came first, Marta's voice saying, "Can't keep doing this," followed by Liam's cocky response about Amelia being upstairs. Then the image focused, showing them by the fireplace, his hand on her arm, her fingers on his face. The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia's fork clattered to her plate. "What is this?" "I think it's pretty self-explanatory," I said, sitting back down and taking another bite of turkey. "Pass the cranberry sauce, would you, Linda?" Linda was staring at the phone screen, mouth open. Victoria had gone pale, which was remarkable considering how much makeup she wore. "Jake, you don't understand," Marta started, but Liam cut her off. "This is taken out of context," he said, but his voice cracked on the last word. "Really?" I picked up the phone and replayed the video. "What context makes this appropriate? I'm genuinely curious." Amelia was looking back and forth between her mother and boyfriend like she was watching a tennis match. "Mom? Liam? What is this?" "It's nothing, sweetheart," Marta said quickly. "Your father is—" "My father is what? Imagining things? Making it up?" I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to me. "The video speaks for itself." "You recorded them?" Victoria found her voice, and of course she was outraged on Marta's behalf. "That's an invasion of privacy." "In my own house? During a family dinner?" I shook my head. "I don't think that's how privacy works, Victoria." Liam pushed back from the table. "I should go." "Yeah, you should," Amelia said, her voice small and hurt. "You really should." "Amy, wait." He reached for her, but she jerked away. "Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again." Marta was crying now, perfect makeup running down her cheeks. "This isn't what it looks like." "Then what is it?" I asked reasonably. "Because it looks like my wife of 22 years is having an affair with our daughter's boyfriend. But please, enlighten me." "It's not an affair," she said desperately. We didn't what? Touch each other? The video shows otherwise. Didn't have feelings for each other? Your body language suggests differently." I was amazed by how calm I sounded. "What exactly didn't happen, Marta?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Liam was edging toward the door, but I wasn't done with him yet. "Sit down, Liam." "I don't have to—" "Sit down." Something in my voice made him comply. "You're 22 years old, dating my daughter, and apparently pursuing my wife. That takes a special kind of nerve." "It's not like that," he mumbled. "Then what is it like? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're a selfish little punk who wants to have his cake and eat it too." "Jake, stop," Linda said quietly. "This isn't helping anyone." "Isn't it?" I looked around the table. "I think it's helping quite a bit. Everyone knows where they stand now." Amelia was crying, but she was also angry. I could see it in the set of her shoulders, the way her hands were clenched in her lap. Well, good. She should be angry. "How long?" she asked, looking at Liam. He didn't answer. "How long?" she repeated, louder this time. "A few months," Marta whispered. "A few months?" Amelia nodded slowly. "So this whole semester, when I was calling you about problems with classes, about being homesick, about how much I missed you, you were here with him?" "Amy, please, don't call me that. Don't call me anything." Amelia stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "I'm going back to school." "You can't drive like this," Linda said. "You're upset." "I'm not upset," Amelia said with icy calm. "I'm done." She walked out, and a moment later we heard the front door slam. Liam started to follow, but I grabbed his wrist. I don't think so. Let go of me. In a minute. I squeezed just hard enough to make my point. You're going to sit here and explain to me how this happened. And then you're going to leave, and you're never going to contact my wife or my daughter again. You can't make me do anything. I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Want to bet? 3 hours later, the house was finally quiet. Liam had left after a conversation that involved me explaining exactly what would happen to him if he ever came near my family again. Victoria had taken Marta to her apartment, both of them shooting me looks like I was the villain in this story. Linda had tried to play peacemaker until I told her to pick a side or leave. She left. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the remains of our Thanksgiving dinner, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. My phone buzzed. Text message from Amelia. Are you okay? I typed back. I should be asking you that. I'm at Sarah's dorm, not coming home for a while. I understand. Take care of yourself. Dad, I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. I brought him into our family. You couldn't have known what he was. There was a long pause, then, what are you going to do? Good question. What was I going to do? I walked upstairs to the bedroom Marta and I had shared for over 2 decades. Her side of the closet was mostly empty. She must have packed while I was cleaning up dinner. On her nightstand, she'd left her wedding ring. Subtle. I picked up the ring and turned it over in my palm. 22 years of marriage, reduced to a small circle of gold, abandoned on a nightstand. I should have felt sad, or angry, or something. Instead, I felt relieved. My laptop was in the home office. I opened it and started researching divorce lawyers, but then I stopped. Divorce was the obvious move, the expected move. But Marta was a lawyer herself, a partner at one of the city's most prestigious firms. She'd have advantages in a divorce that I couldn't match. No, this required a different approach. I opened a new browser tab and started researching something else entirely. Private investigators. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove across town to meet with a man named Robert Hayes. His office was in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a tax preparation service, which didn't inspire confidence, but his credentials were solid. So you want to document your wife's affair, he said after I'd explained the situation. I want to document everything, the affair, her finances, her professional relationships, her social circle. I want to know who she really is. Hayes leaned back in his chair. That's going to be expensive. How expensive? He quoted a number that made me wince, but I nodded. Do it. What's your end game here, Mr. Morrison? Most people in your situation want a quick divorce and a clean break? Most people in my situation don't have wives who are lawyers with connections throughout the city. Most people in my situation don't have to worry about their wives turning the narrative around, making them look like the bad guy. And you think documentation will prevent that? I think documentation will give me options. Hayes smiled. I like the way you think. Over the next week, I maintained a routine that looked normal from the outside. I went to work, came home, made dinner for one. Marta called twice, both times going straight to voicemail. Victoria called once, which I ignored entirely. Amelia texted every day, usually just to check in. I could tell she was struggling, but she was also strong. She'd get through this. Hayes called on Friday with his first report. Your wife's been staying at her sister's apartment, but she's not sleeping alone, he said without preamble. The boyfriend's been there every night. In Victoria's apartment? Looks like Victoria's been playing matchmaker, or at least enabler. That was interesting. I'd always known Victoria disliked me, but I hadn't realized how deep her resentment went. What else? Her law firm's having some financial troubles. Nothing public yet, but there are rumors about a major client pulling their business. Your wife's been working late, taking meetings with potential new clients. Anything else? She's been talking to a divorce lawyer, someone outside her firm. I wasn't surprised, but it still stung a little. How do you know? I have sources. The lawyer she's seeing specializes in high-asset divorces. He's good at making husbands look bad. Then I guess I better make sure he doesn't have much to work with. What do you mean? I mean, I'm going to be the perfect husband. Reasonable, cooperative, devastated by my wife's betrayal, but willing to work things out. Right up until I'm not. Hayes laughed. You're definitely not most people, Mr. Morrison. That weekend, I drove to Amelia's college. She was waiting for me at a coffee shop near campus, looking older than she had just a week ago. Heartbreak has a way of aging people. How are you holding up? I asked, hugging her tight. I've been better. How are you? Honestly, I'm doing okay. She pulled back to look at me. Really? Really. I know that probably sounds strange, but finding out the truth is better than living with the lie. Even if the truth hurts? Especially if the truth hurts. Pain means you're dealing with reality instead of hiding from it. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her classes, her friends, her plans for the future. I told her about work, about the house, about everything except the private investigator and the plans forming in my head. As I was getting ready to leave, she asked, "Dad, are you going to forgive her? Do you think I should? I think you should do whatever makes you happy." "Then no," I said. "I'm not going to forgive her." 2 weeks later, Marta called and asked to meet for coffee. She sounded different, less confident, more careful. The woman who had looked me in the eye and lied about her affair was gone, replaced by someone who understood she was in trouble. We met at a neutral location, a busy cafe downtown where we were unlikely to run into anyone we knew. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was an anchor. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "Of course, we need to talk." She looked tired. The perfect makeup and styled hair were still there, but something underneath had shifted. Good. "Jake, I want you to know how sorry I am. What you saw on Thanksgiving, it wasn't what you think." "What do I think, Marta?" "You think I was having an affair. Were you?" She hesitated just long enough to confirm what I already knew. "It's complicated." "No, it's not. Either you were having an affair or you weren't. Either you betrayed our marriage or you didn't. Either you chose him over me or you didn't." "I chose him over nothing," she said, and there was a flash of the old Marta, sharp, defensive, ready to attack. "What we had wasn't even a marriage anymore. We were roommates." "Whose fault was that?" "Both of ours." I nodded like I was considering this. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we both let things slide." She looked surprised by my reasonable tone. "You really think so?" "I think 22 years is a long time. I think people change, grow apart, want different things." I sipped my coffee, playing the part of the understanding husband. "I think maybe we can work through this." "Work through it?" "If you want to, if you're willing to end things with Liam and try to rebuild what we had." Her face went through several expressions: surprise, relief, calculation, and finally something that might have been disappointment. "You'd be willing to do that, after what you saw?" "I'd be willing to try, for Amelia's sake, if nothing else." "What about Liam?" "What about him? He's a 22-year-old kid who made a stupid mistake. If you cut contact with him completely, I'm willing to put it behind us." She was quiet for a long time, staring into her coffee cup. When she looked up, I saw something in her eyes that made my chest tight with rage. Disappointment. She was disappointed that I was willing to forgive her. "Jake," she said carefully, "I don't know if I can do that." "Cut contact with Liam?" "Yes." "Why not?" "Because—" She stopped, then started again. "Because I have feelings for him." There it was, the truth, finally. "Feelings," I repeated. "Yes." "What kind of feelings?" "I think I love him." The words hung between us like a challenge. She was watching my face, waiting for me to explode, to make a scene, to give her a reason to paint me as the unreasonable one. Instead, I nodded. "Okay." "Okay?" "Okay. You love him. Thank you for being honest." "You're not angry?" "I'm hurt," I said, which was true. "But I'm not surprised. I've suspected for a while that you weren't happy." "I wasn't. I haven't been for years." "Then maybe divorce is the right answer." She blinked. "You want a divorce?" "I want you to be happy, Marta. If being with Liam makes you happy, then that's what you should do." "Just like that?" "Just like that." She looked confused, like she'd prepared for a different conversation entirely. "What about the house? The finances? Everything we've built together?" "We'll figure it out. We're both adults." "You're being very reasonable about this." "I'm trying to be." "What's the alternative? Fighting over everything, making Amelia choose sides, spending years in court?" I shook my head. "That doesn't help anyone." "No, it doesn't. So we'll do this the civilized way. Quick, clean, fair." "Fair?" "You keep what's yours, I keep what's mine, we split everything else down the middle." She nodded slowly. "That sounds reasonable." "Good. I'll have my lawyer draw up some preliminary papers." "You already have a lawyer?" "I figured we'd need one eventually." We talked for another 20 minutes about logistics, who would stay in the house, how to tell Amelia, when to make things official. Marta seemed relieved that I was being so cooperative, so understanding. She had no idea what she'd just walked into. After she left, I sat in the cafe for another hour, making notes on my phone. Then I called Hayes. She took the bait, I said when he answered. All of it? Every bit. She thinks I'm going to roll over and make this easy for her. And instead? Instead, I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for. The divorce papers were filed 3 weeks later. True to my word, I made the process as smooth as possible. I agreed to mediation instead of litigation, accepted a 50-50 split of assets, and even offered to let Marta keep the house if she wanted it. She didn't want it. Too many memories, she said. What she did want was half of everything we'd accumulated over 22 years, plus spousal support, plus her freedom to be with Liam without any legal complications. I gave her all of it. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, thought I was making a mistake. You're being too generous, she said during one of our meetings. She's the one who had the affair. You have grounds to ask for more. I don't want more. I want this over with. But the spousal support alone is temporary and not as much as she thinks it is. Patricia looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, Marta's about to discover that our assets aren't quite what she thought they were. Jake, if you've been hiding money, I haven't hidden anything, but I have been very careful about how our finances were structured. The truth was, I'd been preparing for this possibility for longer than I cared to admit. Not because I'd expected Marta to have an affair, but because I'd learned not to trust her judgment about money. 3 years ago, she'd wanted to invest in a friend's restaurant. I'd agreed, but I'd insisted the money come from a separate account, one that was technically hers, but funded by a business loan that I'd personally guaranteed. 2 years ago, she'd wanted to renovate the kitchen. Again, I'd agreed, but I'd structured the financing in a way that protected our primary assets. Last year, she'd wanted to buy a vacation condo. I'd talked her out of it, but not before doing research that showed me exactly how much debt she was comfortable taking on. The pattern was clear. Marta liked to spend money she didn't have on things that made her feel important, and now she was about to discover that the money she thought she was entitled to had been carefully placed out of reach. The restaurant investment was a loan, not a gift, I explained to Patricia. The kitchen renovation was financed through a home equity line that's secured against future earnings. The credit cards she's been using are in her name only. But the house, the retirement accounts, the savings... The house has a mortgage that's larger than she realizes. The retirement accounts are mostly mine, earned before and after our marriage. The savings account she knows about represents maybe 10% of our actual liquid assets. Patricia stared at me. Where's the rest? Safe. Jake? Legal. Completely legal. Just not obvious. The mediation session was scheduled for a Thursday morning in February. Marta arrived with her lawyer, a slick-looking man named Davidson, who specialized in making wealthy wives even wealthier. I arrived with Patricia and a briefcase full of financial documents. This should be straightforward, Davidson said as we sat down. My client is willing to be reasonable about the division of assets. How generous of her, I said. Marta shot me a look, but I smiled pleasantly. The mediator, an older woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, opened the session by reviewing our preliminary agreements. Everything looked standard. House to be sold and proceeds split, retirement accounts divided, spousal support for 3 years. Now, Mrs. Rodriguez said, let's review the actual assets to be divided. Davidson opened his folder with confidence. Based on the financial disclosure provided by Mr. Morrison, we're looking at approximately $800,000 in total marital assets. Actually, Patricia said, I think there might be some confusion about that number. She opened her own folder and began laying out documents. Bank statements, investment records, loan agreements, business filings. What is this? Marta asked, leaning forward to look at the papers. These are the actual financial records, Patricia said calmly. Not the simplified summary that was provided earlier, but the complete picture. Davidson frowned. We agreed to work from the preliminary disclosure. The preliminary disclosure was accurate as far as it went, I said, but it didn't include debts and obligations. What debts? Marta's voice was sharp. Patricia began explaining. The restaurant loan that Marta had forgotten about. $50,000 with her as the primary borrower. The home equity line that had been used for the kitchen renovation, $75,000 secured against her future earnings, the credit card debt she'd accumulated over the past 2 years, $30,000 in her name only. But these were joint decisions, Marta protested. The restaurant loan has your signature only, Patricia said, sliding the document across the table. You insisted on being the primary investor. The home equity line was your idea, I added. You said you wanted to build credit in your own name. The credit cards? Patricia shrugged. Those speak for themselves. Davidson was frantically reviewing the documents. This changes the entire calculation. Yes, it does, Patricia agreed. Instead of $800,000 in assets, we're looking at approximately $300,000 in actual marital property, offset by $155,000 in debts that are primarily Mrs. Morrison's responsibility. The room went very quiet. Furthermore, Patricia continued, Mr. Morrison's retirement accounts are largely separate property, earned through a business that predates the marriage. The house has a mortgage balance that exceeds its current market value by approximately $40,000. Marta was staring at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. This can't be right. I'm afraid it is, Patricia said. Your husband has been very careful about protecting both of you from financial risk, perhaps too careful. What does this mean? Davidson asked. It means that instead of receiving $400,000 plus spousal support, Mrs. Morrison will be receiving approximately $75,000 and assuming responsibility for debts totaling $155,000. That's impossible. It's mathematics, I said, and it's what you agreed to when you signed those loan documents. Marta turned to look at me, and for the first time since Thanksgiving, I saw real fear in her eyes. You planned this. I planned to protect us from financial risk. I had no way of knowing you'd decide to end our marriage. You manipulated me. I gave you exactly what you asked for. A quick, clean divorce with a 50-50 split of assets and debts. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her mind working, trying to find a way out of the trap she'd walked into. What about spousal support? Based on Mrs. Morrison's earning capacity as a law partner, and considering the debt obligations she'll be assuming, spousal support would be inappropriate, Patricia said. But we agreed. We agreed to spousal support based on the assumption that you'd be receiving a substantial settlement. Given the actual financial picture, that assumption no longer applies. The mediation session lasted another 2 hours, but the outcome was inevitable. Marta left with her car, her personal belongings, and responsibility for debts that would take her years to pay off. She also left with Liam, who was waiting for her in the parking lot. I watched them drive away together, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Satisfaction. But I wasn't done yet. Spring arrived early that year, and with it came news that Marta's law firm was dissolving. The financial troubles Hayes had mentioned turned out to be more serious than anyone had realized. 3 partners were leaving to start their own practice, taking most of the major clients with them. Marta wasn't invited to join them. I learned this from Amelia, who had started calling me regularly again. She was doing better, seeing a counselor, focusing on her studies, dating someone new, someone age-appropriate. Mom's having a hard time, she told me during one of our conversations. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you really? I considered the question. I'm sorry that you're worried about her. I'm not sorry that her choices have consequences. That's fair, I guess. How's Liam? Gone. He transferred schools after the semester ended. And your mother? Living with Aunt Victoria. Looking for a new job. Victoria. I'd almost forgotten about her role in all this. Amelia, can I ask you something? Sure. Did you ever get the feeling that Victoria encouraged your mother's relationship with Liam? There was a long pause. Why do you ask? Just curious. I think Victoria has always resented you, and I think she saw Liam as a way to break up your marriage. Did she say that? Not exactly, but she made comments about how Mom deserved better, how she was wasting her life, how she should take what she wanted instead of settling. Interesting. Very interesting. Dad, are you planning something? What makes you ask that? You get a certain tone in your voice when you're thinking. It's the same tone you used to get when you were debugging a particularly complicated program. Smart girl. Too smart for her own good, sometimes. I'm not planning anything dramatic, I said, which was true. What I was planning was much more subtle than drama. The next day I called Hayes. I need you to look into Victoria Morrison, I said. Your ex-wife's sister? Former sister-in-law, yes. What am I looking for? Everything. Finances, relationships, professional history. I want to know who she really is. This is going to cost. I know what it's going to cost. Hayes called back 3 days later with a report that was more interesting than I'd expected. Victoria had been married twice, both marriages ending badly. The first husband had accused her of adultery. The second had filed for bankruptcy after she'd run up massive debts in his name. She'd worked for several different companies over the past decade, never staying anywhere longer than 2 years. Her current job was with a marketing firm that specialized in reputation management, helping companies and individuals recover from scandals. Most interesting of all, she'd been seeing a therapist for the past 5 years, a therapist who specialized in narcissistic personality disorder. She's a professional manipulator, Hayes said. The kind of person who gets off on controlling other people's lives. And she saw Marta as a perfect target? Looks that way, successful but insecure, married to a man she felt superior to, ripe for suggestion. What about now? Now she's got what she wanted, your ex-wife completely dependent on her, financially and emotionally. Classic manipulation pattern. I thought about this for a while. Victoria had orchestrated the destruction of my marriage, not because she cared about Marta's happiness, but because she enjoyed the power of controlling someone else's life. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The answer came to me a week later, when Amelia mentioned that Victoria was throwing a party to celebrate her promotion at work. She invited me, Amelia said, but I don't think I want to go. Why not? Because it feels weird, like she's celebrating the fact that she helped destroy our family. Maybe you should go. Really? Really, and maybe you should bring a guest. Dad? I promise I'll behave myself. The party was held at Victoria's apartment on a Saturday evening in May. It was a nice place, nicer than she should have been able to afford on her salary, with floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive furniture. Amelia and I arrived fashionably late, when the party was in full swing. Victoria greeted us at the door with surprise and what looked like genuine pleasure. Jake, I didn't expect to see you here. Amelia asked me to come. I hope that's all right. Of course it is. Your family. Former family, but I didn't correct her. The party was exactly what I'd expected. A mix of Victoria's coworkers, a few neighbors, and some people who looked like they were there for the free drinks. Marta was in the kitchen, helping with the food, looking more relaxed than I'd seen her in months. Jake, she said when she saw me, this is a surprise. Good surprise or bad surprise? I'm not sure yet. We talked for a few minutes about nothing important. The weather, Amelia's classes, my work. Normal conversation between two people who used to be married and were trying to figure out how to be civil to each other. You look good, she said finally. Thank you. So do you. I'm getting by. I heard about the law firm. I'm sorry. She shrugged. These things happen. I'll find something else. I'm sure you will. There was an awkward pause, then she said, Jake, I want you to know. I never meant for things to end the way they did. I know. Do you really? I think you got caught up in something that felt exciting and new, and you didn't think about the consequences until it was too late. That's very understanding of you. I'm trying to be. She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married 22 years ago. Thank you. I spent the next hour mingling, making conversation, being the perfect ex-husband. Friendly but not too friendly, interested but not intrusive. Several people commented on how mature I was being about the divorce. Around 10 o'clock, Victoria called for everyone's attention. She stood in the center of her living room, wine glass in hand, looking flushed with success and alcohol. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, she said. This promotion means a lot to me, not just professionally, but personally. It represents a new chapter in my life, a chance to help people rebuild after they've made mistakes. She looked directly at Marta when she said this, and I saw something pass between them, a look of understanding, of shared conspiracy. Some of you know that my family has been through some changes recently, Victoria continued. My sister Marta is starting over after ending an unhappy marriage, and I'm proud to be able to support her during this transition. Murmurs of sympathy from the crowd. Marta looked embarrassed, but pleased. Change is never easy, Victoria went on, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes we have to be willing to hurt people we care about in order to help them find happiness. Now she was looking at me, and I saw the truth in her eyes. She wasn't just talking about Marta's divorce. She was talking about engineering it. So here's to new beginnings, Victoria raised her glass, and to having the courage to take what we deserve. Everyone drank to the toast. Everyone except me. After the crowd dispersed, I found Victoria in the kitchen, loading dishes into the dishwasher. Nice speech, I said. Thank you. Very revealing. She looked up at me. What do you mean? I mean, it's interesting how you talk about helping people find happiness by hurting others. Sometimes that's necessary. Is it? Or do you just enjoy the manipulation? Her hand stilled on the dishes. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. You saw an opportunity to destroy my marriage, and you took it, not because you thought it would make Marta happy, but because you enjoyed the power. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because from where I stand, it looks like you orchestrated the whole thing, encouraged Marta's dissatisfaction, introduced her to the idea that she deserved better, maybe even suggested that Liam was available. Victoria straightened up, and I saw a flash of the real person underneath the helpful sister act. You have no idea what you're talking about. I think I do. I think you've been playing games with other people's lives for years, and you finally found the perfect target in my wife. Marta made her own choices. After you spent months telling her what those choices should be. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then Victoria smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Even if that were true, she said, what are you going to do about it? Your marriage is over. Marta's moved on. You lost. Did I? Of course you did. You're here alone, at your ex-wife's sister's party, trying to start fights with people who don't care about you anymore. You're right, I said. I am here alone, but I'm not trying to start a fight. Then what are you doing? I'm saying goodbye. I left the kitchen and found Amelia, who was ready to go anyway. We said our goodbyes, polite, civilized, final, and left. In the car, Amelia was quiet for a while. Then she said, What was that about? What was what about? Whatever happened between you and Victoria in the kitchen? She looked shaken when you came out. I just wanted her to know that I understand what she did. And what did she do? She manipulated your mother into destroying our marriage because she enjoyed the power of controlling someone else's life. Amelia was quiet for several more blocks. Then, are you going to do something about it? I already did. What do you mean? I pulled into her driveway and put the car in park. Victoria's promotion? The one we were celebrating tonight? Yeah? It's based on a client recommendation that doesn't exist. Her company thinks she landed a major account, but the account is fake. When they find out, and they will find out, probably sometime next week, she'll be fired for fraud. Amelia stared at me. How do you know that? Because I created the fake account, and I made sure it would be discovered at exactly the right time. Dad, Victoria wanted to play games with other people's lives. Now she gets to find out what it feels like to be on the receiving end. Is that legal? Probably not. But it's not traceable to me, and by the time anyone figures out what happened, Victoria will have much bigger problems to worry about. What kind of problems? The kind that happen when someone with a history of financial manipulation gets investigated for professional fraud. Amelia was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, Do you feel better now? Ask me next week. But I already knew the answer. For the first time since Thanksgiving, I felt like myself again. The game was over, and I had won.